Ah, fuck. It just gets worse, doesn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, these are the 10 worst songs of 2022. It almost killed me. I often wonder how so much shit managed to be crammed into 1 year. First, we saw the resurgence of the crypto hacking on YouTube, then the attempts by the music industry and really the entertainment industry as a whole to censor individual creators, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Actman and Quantum TV drama, the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the obligatory midterms. In music, we saw that Taylor Swift, Nicki Minaj, Drake, and so many other vapid pop stars of the 2010s and prior are still somehow relevant. Justin Bieber's face paralysis, which call me evil, but I honestly smiled with joy when I heard that his condition prevented him from being able to sing, because that meant his career was pretty much over, and we'd never have to hear from that sub-beta male ever again. No albums, no #1 hits, hell yeah, finally. Ozzy Osbourne released his 13th studio album, with Metallica setting up for the release of their 12th studio album, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but we saw the return of Dark Funeral and Lord Belial in black metal. This year we also saw Amon Amarth release their 12th studio album. What's up with that? Amon Amarth has been releasing music for half as long as Metallica, and they already have 12 studio albums. On the personal level, I was fired from my job because of lies and lack of communication from my bosses, and had my life played with by the state government after 2 years of hard work and narrowly avoiding COVID-19, and lured into a false sense of hope by a company that made me go out and buy a whole bunch of shit with other people's money that, as you see, didn't make me any better or worse as an employee, treated me like a robot, and had no respect for my disability, and worked me to the point of exhaustion with no health benefits despite working full-time hours, and fired me after just 3 weeks for no other reason that I can logically think of other than I just wasn't docile enough. Don't even think about working in fast food, people, because that shit was a fucking circus. But the tides are turning just in time for the new year, because I got hired. It's retail, $9 an hour, but it's a place that just recently undergone improvements, and the new manager there is someone that cares and that knows what they're doing, which is something that unfortunately not a lot of places take into account when hiring leadership, is hiring a manager that actually knows how to manage. I'm going to look into enrolling in trade school here after Christmas, and we've also got 1,000 subscribers coming up, at which point I will look into starting a Patreon so I can begin accepting financial contributions. So I am absolutely looking into setting my life back on the right track. Whether or not my efforts will succeed remains to be seen. Once I announce my Patreon, if you guys donated, any amount you pitch in would be of great assistance. Eventually, maybe I can start putting back into the content and eventually start giving back to the community. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. At 1,000, I will be releasing a great big special, which is a reaction to Everywhere at the End of Time, stages 1 through 6 by The Caretaker. I was going to do something extra and react to Stage 7 Purgatory and Stage 7 Heaven by Wilhelm Lyons in addition to that, but the file's too fucking big. I understand if some of you out there are disappointed, but this was my storage after getting done with just Stage 5. I had to save the full reaction on a USB with 20 gigs of storage, and even then I had to save it in 30 FPS and 640 by 480, so the framing is a little fucky, but the special is done. Wilhelm Lyons does have a reincarnation project that is basically Everywhere at the End of Time, but with the tracks in reverse order, so that should prove to be a unique listening experience, and maybe I can figure something out for 2,000 subscribers, if that's what you guys want to see. Anyway, we're at the tail end of 2022, and I have a list of songs that I would like to present to you that I consider to be among the worst of the year. Before we do begin though, I do want to run my mouth a little bit. It's time to finally really earn those dislikes from the metal community in particular, at least those that are still loyal to Ozzy Osbourne after 2019. Yes, for those who don't know, in 2019, Ozzy Osbourne, the frontman of Black Sabbath and arguably one of the most important figures in metal music, sold out to top 40 hip-hop and collaborated with Post Malone and Travis Scott. Post Malone has made a name for himself as one of the biggest rock and metal posers ever. While originally in a metalcore band in high school, he later turned to hip-hop. Why hip-hop? I don't fucking know. He could have easily been a big deal if he started a solo metal act and just hired guest musicians from bands like Black Sabbath, Motley Crue, Merciful Fate, etc. But as it turns out, Post Malone is only in music for celebrity status, and is only following the money. And so are people such as Ozzy Osbourne, Tommy Lee, King Diamond, and all of Metallica, at least so is the case in the present day. Ozzy continued his selling out with his 2020 album Ordinary Man, which got eviscerated by reviewers on the Metal Archives. Ozzy featured Post Malone on the song It's a Raid, and made Take What You Want, the song Ozzy collabed with Post on, a bonus track, and featured Charlie Puth extensively throughout the album, as well as Elton John on track 4. Well, fast forward 2 years later, and Ozzy has released another album, not featuring any shitty top 40 musicians or 80s ballad musicians that, like Ozzy, are way past their prime. To be totally honest with you, I wrote this in October, and as of the 28th, nearly 2 months after the release of Patient Number 9, I feel like that's what Ozzy is, at the dementia clinic in London, 5 people bothered to review the album, and on average, it scored a 57% approval rating. A higher rating than Ordinary ordinary man, sure, but excusable seeing as how it features no top 40 musicians. But in my honest opinion, the metal community are still too forgiving. I was honestly a little nervous that people would continue to lick Ozzy's boot as if he didn't just rape our ears with a bunch of mediocre pop stars and crap rappers, and bust out the 8, 9, 10 out of 10 reviews. In fact, I wasn't going to talk about this unless it got anything lower than a C-. But thankfully, the metal community isn't quite full of a bunch of NPCs, and enough people are still pissed off at Ozzy, if for no other reason than the new album just sucks. And it's a telling sign of what state Ozzy's career is in. His ability to survive to 74 despite practically being one with drugs and alcohol is a miracle, but musically he has lost his element, and he has lost touch with the community he helped to build. It's time to retire. Madonna has the same issue, where Madonna is too mediocre even for pop fans. Ozzy is too mediocre to even warrant a sympathy listen from any metalhead that's worth their salt. I'm especially in favor of throwing him to the wayside after the circus that was 2019 and 2020. It's over, man. Nobody gives a shit. Do yourself and all of us a favor and retire. You've done enough to raise heavy music, but you've also done your damage. Stay in that nursing home and let the new generation guide the metal community forward and faithfully. Metallica is also set to release another album in 2023. I'm not even going to start with them, but I find it amusing that their single Lux Aeterna flopped. Metal Archives users gave that one a 48% as of November 30th. Honestly, with how bad Metallica has gotten even since the release of Hardwired, some part of me can't wait for 72 Seasons to topple Saint Anger as being their worst album. Truly, I just don't understand why a big enough portion of the metal community still tolerate Ozzy and Metallica, especially when there are so many bands out there that are 10 times better. I'll uncover just a few of those bands in a couple of weeks when I publish my list of the 10 best metal songs of the year, but today we're going to go over the brain rot released by pop and hip-hop musicians that were peddled by Top 40 Radio. As it always is, because even though something like Everywhere at the End of Time saw much of its success on TikTok, the project, none of the albums that make it up, nor any of the tracks charted, not even in England, which is where Leyland Kirby is based. Yeah, okay. I'm sure fucking WAP was all 2020 had to offer in terms of music. But ladies and gentlemen, let's finally start on the 10 worst songs of 2022. Number 10 is Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift. As we know, the number 10 spot is usually reserved for songs that have no reason to exist. This year is slightly different. It's not a song made by a pop or hip-hop artist trying to be rock and roll despite remaining grounded to type beats, dance music, and lyrics about partying, drugs, and sex with women that are already in relationships. It's not a pop or hip-hop artist butchering one or several heavy metal songs, and it's not a heavy metal artist going in cahoots with a top 40 artist. That's something we managed to avoid this year, unless you want to count Just Wanna Rock by Lil Uzi Vert, which in my opinion wasn't that bad. At least it wasn't just some trap shit, but it's every fucking year at this point. Taylor Swift releases something every year, and without fail, it cracks the top 15. Really? Jesus fucking Christ. I remember before I first moved to Oregon, my mom would play that Top 40 Radio, and I remember making fun of that fucking "I knew you were trouble when you walked in." Here we are 10 years later, and she's still putting together garbage and passing it off as music, and the masses are eating it up with a wooden fucking spoon. Or are they? It's a pattern so fucking repetitive that even my 16-year-old cousin thinks it's all bullshit. The music industry is just telling us what to like, and Universal, fucking corrupt piece of shit label, bought 6 weeks at number 1 for Anti-Hero. UMG are the same people that own the rights to Justin Bieber's terrible music, and they tried to falsely copyright strike me earlier this year for criticizing the song Ghost. Let's hope we don't have something similar happen here because of this particular song, or other songs on here that happen to be owned by UMG in some capacity. I honestly wish it was a deal between record labels and charts to keep Taylor Swift as relevant as ever, but it looks like people really are this fucking stupid, because apparently Ticketmaster fucking crashed because so many people were buying tickets to her tour shows. What a fucking joke. All to hear a bunch of breakup songs live when they could more easily hear them in studio quality on their computer. Then the fans have the nerve to blame Ticketmaster for the crash, instead of blame themselves for being so violently brainwashed and piling in like cattle. Why do people still love Taylor Swift like this? Not only does she not add shit to music as an art form, but she price gouges her merch. During the pandemic, a blank fucking hoodie with a rectangle on it was being sold by her merch store for $90 fucking dollars. She encourages product vandalism by proxy by sending her dumb fans on some dumb scavenger hunt to find all 8 Polaroid pictures on some album. Is that what she's doing with the tickets to her tour too? Are people buying 10 tickets for themselves because every ticket sale means there's a 1 in 10 chance that Taylor Swift will come through their iPhone or computer screen and jostle their private parts? It's bad when you can't even trust the album sales or ticket sales anymore, because the artist wants nothing more than to make money. And trust me, Taylor Swift only wants money. If she didn't just want money, she wouldn't have threatened to pull all her music from Spotify, because Spotify doesn't pay more than half a cent per stream. If there's ever been a good example to point to show that musicians are bourgeois, it's it's Taylor Swift. But let's see what about the song Anti-Hero in particular grinds my gears. She first starts off by claiming depression, like she knows what depression actually is. She could put a price on her own fecal matter and she would still have hundreds of thousands of fans trying to buy 69 turds for 500 apiece. But if this song's lyrics are any reflection of what her thoughts are, she seems to finally realize that she is the problem, and that she can't think for herself.
Sometimes I feel like everybody is a sexy baby, sexy baby. Sexy baby.
What the fuck? I know the entertainment industry is chock full of pedophiles, but someone forgot to tell Taylor Swift to not make it so obvious. Maybe Taylor shouldn't be left to her own devices. Fucking creep. No wonder she acted like such a high schooler in her song 22. Where Taylor Swift spent her 22nd age eating breakfast at midnight, dressing like a hipster, and talking about the boys she liked, I spent my 22nd age being financially assaulted by corporations and being pushed around by law enforcement for keeping my dead-ass car parked in one spot for too long, and watching as I fell into personal debt without even having gone to college. And in a condition where job prospects are non-existent, or the employers looking for workers weren't willing to hire me for whatever reason they might have.
Did you hear my covert narcissism, like disguise as altruism, like some kind of consciousness?
Yeah, if there's one thing that you should never compare yourself to, it's fucking Congress. One thing I will give Taylor Swift is that she can get more done in a year than Congress. Still waiting on that minimum wage increase going into 2023. $7.25 in 2009 is worth 10 in today's money. But this will be the second year in a row that Taylor Swift made my worst songs list. It will also be the second year in a row for Drake because his new song Rich Flex featuring 21 Savage is number 9.
21, can you do something for me? 21.
Last year, we saw Drake complain in a song that lesbian women was the only thing that he could find. This year, it's about how rich he is, as if we need another fucking rap song where the artist flexes their riches. Like, honestly, how many more times can we do this? And how long is it going to be until people snap the fuck out of it and realize that celebrities are rubbing their exorbitant lifestyle in our faces? Meanwhile, we sit at the bottom eating fucking ramen, barely making rent, and living paycheck to paycheck. But let's see here. First of all, what the fuck is this art cover? Jesus Christ help us all if Drake is supposed to be some shining example of black success. Because this is stereotypical as fuck. Still using the N-word in his songs. God, this shit is so dumb. Why does this get made? More importantly, why do people listen to this? Why did it hit number 2 on the Hot 100? Why is this so revered? Is it revered? Or is this another case of record labels buying the position? As far as I know, the album this is on only hits silver in Britain. Maybe Brits get a kick out of this stereotypical African-American nonsense, and the crap the American music industry peddles that degrades not just black people, but women as well, which this song does both. Let's not forget about the part where Drake and 21 Savage marginalize the working class. Honestly, I'm not even going to bother listening to this shit. I already think this song is shit from a lyrical standpoint. I just know I won't enjoy it from a musical standpoint. You can't convince me that the first thing I'm going to hear isn't some shit trap beat straight out of one of those dumb memes made by some 15-year-old that couldn't tell you what continent we're on, and that it doesn't play throughout the entire song. This adds nothing to hip-hop, let alone music as an art form. Moving on, number 8 is Lift Me Up by Rihanna. This will be this year's entry in the pop ballad category. Another artist that I don't understand why they still hold relevance is Rihanna, who no doubt would have hit number 1 if Taylor Swift didn't shit her yearly series of singles, despite the fact that this was just a song produced for a movie and a 17 going on 18-year music career. This song hit number 2 on the Hot 100. The song starts off with some humming that sounds like they brought in Rihanna from the past when she was like 15. I just don't get why people listen to this shit. Why do music fans allow this fucking corporate-produced artificial slop to become popular? The auto-tune is so obvious. She sounds like a fucking kid in the humming intro, unless she had an actual kid do that part, and then she goes back to sounding like any other 34-year-old woman, not accounting for vocal processing when the lyrics actually start. Now, was this only made popular because of the new Black Panther movie, or was the new Black Panther movie only a success because of this song? In other words, does this song's success hinge solely on the new Black Panther film, or is my generation really this fucking stupid? This song is such a fucking snooze fest. I mean, there's no way people are bumping this shit at the club, right? Right? Well, it could just be because Christmas music is making its yearly return to the charts, but the song has dropped to number 22 as of December 12th. So it's possible that this song is only feeding off the new Black Panther movie. Even though this song probably would have charted without the movie, because much like Taylor Swift, Rihanna could just release a 50-minute compilation of her shitting and farting, title it Fart Pop, and it would still go 15 times platinum, because I don't fucking know why. I guess people would think that she's dissing Lady Gaga, and they want to see drama between another pair of vapid celebrities, even though Kanye West already generates plenty of drama as it is. Well, moving on to number 7, which will be Under the Influence by Chris Brown.
Fucking Robitussin, I don't know.
Why in the fuck does Chris Brown still have fans? Is this motherfucker cancelled or not? Seems like one day Lizzo is getting bitched out for calling Chris Brown her favorite person ever. The next day, Chris Brown has got a new song that's peaking at number 14. It seems like top 40 fans really don't give a shit if someone, a celebrity no less, is a domestic abuser. And of course, a Chris Brown song will always be worse than any Rihanna song. That's a penalty Chris Brown earned for life the second he laid hands on a woman. Honestly, dude, if this shit right here isn't enough to be able to comfortably disregard top 40 music and fans, I don't know what is. I swear fucking charts like the Hot 100 must be AI generated at this point. Maybe ticket sales and streams are taken into account, but recurring themes like Chris Brown will always return. And honestly, I think that's just how charts are set up, or at least it's another way charts could be set up. And anyone that actually listens to pop radio, their opinion does not matter, whatever it may be on. Even if they claim to advocate for the deconstruction of class society and the installment of a workers' dictatorship. Because in the end, they still support the bourgeoisie by proxy. They're supporting wife beaters, racists, and sexual predators. I would almost end the video here in coming to this conclusion, but there's still 6 more songs to get through that I want to talk about. What's even more disgusting about this is the fact that Chris Brown is jumping on the fucking anime bandwagon. Another thing that happened this year was my exile from the anime community. So where are the anime fans condemning Chris Brown the wife beater? Just so the otakus know, I give you permission to lift my ban from our anime when Chris Brown ascends from being just a wife beater to being a waifu beater. I will gladly accept my invitation back into the community. But don't fucking toss me for trying to guide the community towards greatness! As with Rich Flex, I'm not even going to bother with actually listening to this song. Lists like these are usually opinionated, but if you can't accept it as a fact that Chris Brown is one of the worst human beings currently walking on the face of the planet, I invite you to dislike, unsubscribe, and type some poorly worded insult about how I'm ugly, that I'm a bitch ass N-word, or whatever half-assed insults top 40 fans are just barely capable of coming up with. Fuck Chris Brown. I hope he gets AIDS and dies. Number 6 is Late Night Talking by Harry Styles.
Things haven't been quite the same.
I lobotomized this earlier in the year. Apparently Harry Styles and the other 1D boys are still relevant. His other song, As It Was, hit number 1 earlier in the year, with this hitting number 3. First of all, with 1D, back in the day, having the reputation of being perceived as gay, of all things to put for the art cover of this song, why did Harry Styles have to do this shoot looking like a femboy? Does anyone else see that? Nice going shaking that off. Apparently this song was written for his girlfriend that's like 10 years older than he is, but the composition of the song sounds like fucking circus music. The lyrics are cheesy, with Harry Styles saying that he would help his girlfriend through a stubbed toe and a broken camera. Nobody needs emotional support getting over a stubbed toe. It'd be different if she broke her toe, but anyone that claims they need comfort through something like a stubbed toe is just looking for attention. Also, why would someone like Olivia Wilde need emotional support after accidentally, hopefully, breaking her camera? Can't she just buy a new one? You know, because she's rich as fuck? I mean, even commoners like me would just be like, oh well, I guess I gotta fucking save up for a new one. Even if the disappointment of breaking something like a camera is worse for commoners. Harry Styles, despite apparently not being a fan of change, would gladly follow his girlfriend to any place she wanted to move to. This song is the simp anthem of 2022. I go more in depth in my lyric lobotomy. If you wish to watch that, you can find it in my lyric lobotomies playlist, to which there will be a link in this card. Well, we have covered 5 songs, and we have 5 more songs to get through. But real quick, I want to do my shameless plug. If you're new to this channel, I run my own music project. If you're into metal, you might like what I have. Basically, my project attempts to be symphonic thrash metal. I started releasing my first few singles at the end of 2020, influenced by the work of Iced Earth and Dimmu Borgir. I thought it was weird that there were subgenres like symphonic black metal, symphonic death metal, and symphonic power metal, but there's no symphonic thrash metal bands. And the bands that are labeled symphonic thrash metal on the metal archives are just melodic thrash with symphonic elements, and they don't really have much of a semblance to the likes of Slayer, Anthrax, or Megadeth. I seek to do what the few options in symphonic thrash metal are not doing. My act is known as Death Wish. I will be releasing my 3rd album in about a month, on January 20th. President Kanye Part 1, Cloud Chaser. During the summer, I released a demo that contained instrumental versions of the first 4 tracks to kind of test the waters and see if it was worth continuing on with Death Wish after I suffered burnout earlier in the year, and it was a relative success, so I pressed forward. I now have the first 3 songs and the 5th and 6th songs out as singles, and I plan to release the rest of the album as singles throughout the rest of the winter and into spring. President Kanye Part 2, the second half of the series, is planned for a January 2024 release. Here I will share with you a preview of the finished version of the 4th track.
47 has gotten his way in Congress and Senate.
What you just heard was the 4th track titled Cloud Chaser. Tell me what you thought. Decent effort, or should I just retire? Be honest. I personally think it's better than the material I released on my 2nd and 1st albums, but I suppose we shall see. I hope to shoot even higher for album 4. After the 4th album, I'm going to abandon anti-celebrity and anti-poser themes, and talk about more serious subjects. Continuing on with the list, number 5 is I Like You, a happier song by Post Malone, featuring Doja Cat. I was wrong when I said Post Malone's 4th album would be his 3rd in a row, in which he has painted rock or metal music in a coat of hip-hop cliches and themes antonymic to what Post Malone is trying but failing to convey. But with Rockstar being Post Malone's breakthrough hit, or at least the hit that proved he wasn't just some one-hit wonder, his legacy as a poser lives on. His newest material does not help his case, and neither does his unwavering loyalty to hip-hop.
My last hip-hop album was fucking hip-hop. My next hip-hop album is fucking hip-hop. I love hip-hop. I make hip-hop.
Among his new material is I Like You, which features feminist poser Doja Cat. This was another song that I lobotomized this year. The cliches just seem to be thrown around in the lyrics without much planning, with Post Malone starting the song off with I wanna be your friend, go shopping in the Benz. I'm still not sure how he plans to do shopping inside of a Mercedes-Benz vehicle, unless he means ordering fast food or if there's some type of mall that you can actually drive around in, which I highly doubt there is, or maybe he's picking up a curbside order. I can't actually seem to find any meaning online to what this specific line is supposed to mean. For all I know, it really was just some nonsense that Post Malone or his team of writers jotted down just to force a cliche. He continues with I'll hit you when I land. If this were released 20 years ago, people would think Post Malone planned on physically assaulting Doja Cat, but for some reason my generation has shortened I'll hit you up, as in I'll call/text you, to I'll hit you. A lot of the song is just more bling rap, trying to normalize adultery, bragging he's famous and has women just lining up to fuck him. Despite the fact that this song was apparently huge this year, I never caught my coworkers at Brahms playing it, and I worked around the kind of brainwashed sheep that listen to top 40 garbage. So maybe it's a good thing that people aren't actually listening to this crap. Because I don't understand why this shit is so tolerated. Because this was not a good year for the commoner, with inflation, corporate price gouging despite record profits, job loss, and stagnant wages wreaking havoc on all of us. But it's okay for Post Malone and every other top 40 musician to casually brag about their status in their music. If he went up to someone that didn't recognize him and flaunted his money and fame, and that he gets bitches, he'd probably get an eye roll from the person he was talking to, especially if that person was not well off financially. A lot of celeb defenders think the haters are just jealous, but that's not how it works. It's disrespectful for someone of high status, whether they earned it or were born into it, to show off to people typically considered below them. And the fact that jealousy is even part of the argument is proof of brainwashing. Where last year we learned that Doja Cat casually uses the N-word despite being like 3/4 white, it seems she continues to do this a year later, showing that music fans really don't care if you drop the N-bomb as long as you have $1 million. I said it last year, I'll say it again this year. For the people in the back, dump Doja Cat immediately or the Kyle Rittenhouses of the future will all be found not guilty because nobody takes the movement for racial justice seriously. The reason because of that, the racial justice movement, whether you're Black Lives Matter or whatever the hell, is allowing celebrities like Doja Cat and half Mexican 6699, and possibly many more, to say the N-word. We can also revisit the nonsensical bullshit that not being a fan of hip-hop makes one racist. I would say that being a fan of bling rap makes one more racist than someone who hates hip-hop, because more than half of the people that listen to hip-hop these days are just middle-class white kids appropriating African-American culture. Hip-hop used to be about the struggles black people face in a systemically oppressive country such as the United States, and now hip-hop is almost synonymous with the bourgeoisie. Songs like this are proof that hip-hop was destroyed from within, and that the elite are now wearing the skin suit of a once again underground movement within music that sought to expose what life was and is still like for millions of black people across the country. Musicians like Doja Cat, Post Malone, Drake, and 21 Savage are bastardizations of what hip-hop once was. And sure, the metal community has a small Nazi problem, especially within black metal, but on the other hand there's a movement that counters that, red and anarchist black metal, which I often shorten to red metal. So the theory that hip-hop haters are racist is once again debunked, and I have seized the opportunity to reiterate that the reason I hate hip-hop, especially modern hip-hop, has nothing to do with skin color. You can blame Top 40 fans for making me repeat myself. Dump Doja Cat, you fucking idiots. Number 4 is Break My Soul by Beyonce. I already did a lyric lobotomy on this back in August, so if you want to check that out, follow the link in the card, Control F, Break My Soul, there you go. But to reiterate, I honestly don't understand how or why Beyonce is still relevant. She comes off as an artist that has been around since ever. And yet she's still winning Grammys and topping charts in 2022. In fact, her first album was released in 2003, and under none other than Sony, or more specifically Columbia Records. So it's not like she was nobody. Although I don't think most people actually started giving a shit until she married Jay-Z 5 years later. And yet here she is, nearly 20 years after the release of her first studio album, still on the radar. Hell, I think Beyonce might have been among some of the first musicians I ever hated, alongside Miley Cyrus when she was still known as Hannah Montana. It's kind of fucked, really. If Beyonce is still hitting #1 in 2022, chances are just Justin Bieber, if he returns, but if not, Drake, will still be hitting number 1 in 2032, and it will probably be 2040 before these artists finally drop out of the top 15. It's been fucking with my head since the summer. Is there really no end to this? The only reason I'm fighting the pop music industry is because Adele and Bieber in particular, or at least their record labels, feel that it is within their bounds to censor criticism. But if Taylor Swift wasn't already making me think this, then Beyonce seals the deal. What we know as top 40 music is just the favorite music of industry executives. That's why this shit is so popular, because the people at the top of the hierarchy, regardless, again, if they worked for it or were born into it, the latter being more likely, at least within the music industry executives enjoy this crap. Sure, one might argue that rock was popular back in the day, but in those days, especially when it was stuff like the Beatles, that was the closest thing we had to modern pop. I mean, the Beatles were the One Direction for the boomers, while Elvis Presley was the Justin Bieber of that time. Even weirder is the fact that both the Beatles and One Direction were in and out within a decade, and the members of both bands went on to start their own solo careers. Elvis was big from 1956 to 1977, just 2 years more so far than Beyonce. My point being, you cannot possibly expect me to take you seriously when you say that the music industry isn't fucking rigged to favor pop over everything else, either because it's made inconvenient for everything else because of streaming, or because it's what the execs like, and if we don't like it, we can get on our knees and suck their dicks. The charts don't take shit into account except for which songs make the execs the most erect. There might not be proof of that, but the pattern cannot be denied. I mean, if a metal band made this exact same song, it would not have a hope in hell of charting on the Hot 100. But if Beyonce made, let's say, The Destroying Angel by Anal Nathrak, if she had the idea for that song first and put it into action, it would hit number 1 or at least chart as long as she released a single and a music video for it. Bonus points if she's half nude. That's another thing wrong with Break My Soul, is the fact that it's another case of YouTube opening the gates for a celebrity to release a music video where her nipples are covered by the smallest pieces of plastic, or whatever it is she's wearing, whereas this would have been striked, age-restricted, demonetized if it was some regular schmuck that dressed like this. If I had $50 million and 50 million subscribers, and most of my fame came from my music, I could probably come on here with my hairy schlong out, and YouTube would defend it as art. The song is basically about how Beyonce built her own foundation, despite the fact that the song heavily samples a Big Freedia song, the fact that she's married to Jay-Z, who was already a major force in hip-hop 10 years before she married him, and let's not forget the children working in the sweatshops in Sri Lanka producing goods for her Ivy Park fashion brand. So yeah, fuck Beyonce. Cancel her? Like, why the fuck haven't you people canceled her yet? Does having $1 million exempt her from criticism? Her career should have been Thanos snapped out of existence the minute the news broke of the sweatshops. Get rid of her, I'm fucking serious. Stop giving her Grammys, stop letting her hit number 1. If you're listening to Beyonce right now, stop it. No. No. Bad proletarian. That is not how you chat. Number 3 is About Damn Time by Lizzo. Funny story, I released the lyric lobotomy for this song just 2 days before I got fired from my job at Brahms. In this song, Lizzo talks about how stressed out she is, and I went on about how she's rich and can literally just live off her work until she dies, which fight me on that, and that she has no reason to stress out over anything, and that if recording sessions and touring was stressing her out, then working alone in a fast food kitchen with basically half a person helping you, while customers fucking pile in, would probably make her shrivel up until she looked like a frostbitten scrotum, just sitting on the ground while 3 other people working ran around like chickens with their head cut off. And that's just working in the kitchen. I didn't get the chance to deal with any customers, and nor did I want to. Even though what I did got me fired, I was a tame kitten compared to some of the other stress-fueled meltdowns I've had. And really, I only got frustrated because the workplace was disorganized as hell. And while I say Lizzo would just die on the spot working in fast food, where there's no excuse for me destroying 5 burgers in similar fashion to an angry god swiping at 5 unsuspecting cities, Lizzo could probably use her own shit instead of beef and force a customer to eat it and threaten to beat the crap out of everyone that so much as accidentally walks in her way. And those fake bitches that were my firing managers probably wouldn't be able to help but fucking fangirl over the fact that it's Lizzo and that she's taking time out of her life as a celebrity to work at some shitty fucking fast food joint that doesn't offer benefits to full-time workers, scams its employees, and doesn't even furnish the attire, expecting would-be new hires to have the money to buy clothing that nobody that's never worked there has ever needed. And the food takes forever ordering there because there's only one fucking person working in the kitchen. It would have been enough that Lizzo mocks the working class claiming she's stressed out, but within the same fucking song she turns around, does this 180 shit, and casually states that she's walking around in her Balenciagas, as if Balenciaga is a fashion brand that we can all afford. Show of hands, who here has $1,000 just lying around? Fuck, I'd sooner toss $1,000 into a well than spend it on a pair of shoes. The pair I own cost $100, and they were just given to me because my grandaunt's husband didn't like them. Fuck off, Lizzo. Why do you people listen to this shit? Oh yeah, that's right. It's force-fed to you by the capitalist ruling class. I really have to work on putting it in my head that you guys are conditioned to believe that this is the only music in production, or that you've bought into the nonsense that metal is just screaming and noise. Number 2 is Big Energy by Lotto.
Hey Daddy, when you gonna stop playing?
Here we have the song that was at least honest about hating poor people, in particular pushing a belief that being poor is a beta trait, and small dick energy, which I can't see how Lotto wasn't immediately cancelled with this line, seeing as how the working class is becoming poorer and poorer with each passing year. Even worse is the fact that this was released in 2021, but of course it didn't chart until this year. But I want to understand why Lizzo thinks this way. I can at least give her the fact that she's honest in her ignorance of the plights of the working class, but there's something I found absolutely disgusting about this song. As someone whose life has been completely derailed for the past nearly 5 years after my family divorced over accusations of disloyalty between my parents, when the reality was they were working sunrise to sunset as managers, and especially in the past 10 months after I was fired from Walmart with no notice, in an area where you're pretty much damned if you do and damned if you don't as far as getting a job goes, but at least the minimum wage might afford you a small grocery run, but you're still going to get kicked out by your landlord. Then someone like Lotto comes along and insinuates that you have a small dick because of your situation that you have absolutely no control over. Meanwhile, she could probably pay the rent of an entire neighborhood for life. Apparently, she was bullied by African American fellow students when she was growing up. Many of the kids that bullied me in school were African American as well, but you don't see me fucking trashing poor people over it. With black poverty in the United States being more than twice as bad as white poverty, despite poverty levels being advertised as being at historical lows. But why does it stop in 2019? Not to mention the fact that she debuted as Miss Mulatto, with her current stage name just being a shortened version of that. According to Wikipedia, mulatto is a racial classification used to describe people of mixed African and European ancestry. It is considered an outdated term and offensive in several languages, including English. So where are the people saying hip-hop haters are racist now? Who in the fuck is honestly convinced of that? Even if Alyssa Michelle Stevens is doing reverse racism, the statement that hip-hop haters are all racists is the biggest projection I've ever heard, second only to communism being a system under which people were forced into lives of harsh labor, and were often paid nothing in return, a talking point which I wouldn't put it past Miss Stevens to peddle. Why she won the BET Award for Best New Artist of 2022, I can only assume she was picked out of a hat by some executive at CBS, CBS being the company that owns BET, and also having a history of ignoring internal complaints of racism. Still think I'm crazy. Fuck Lotto for being both classist and racist, fuck BET for being a proxy of the entertainment industry used to export mind control onto the black population, effectively weighing down the movement for black liberation, and fuck CBS for 1, manufacturing capitalist rhetoric, and 2, its disregard of fair use law in the form of their censorship of Angry Joe's criticism of the Halo TV series. Number 1 is Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj.
I can lick it, I can ride it while you slippin' and
On the 17th, Adosa Buckley went back to doing his Worst Of series in the form of countdowns. I watched the video all the way until he announced his pick for the number 1 spot, fucking ABCDEFU by Gale. Excuse me, what? You're telling me after doing your own musical autopsy on Super Freaky Girl, which was literally just My Lyrical Lobotomy but more Canadian, and that shit doesn't even appear on the list, but ABCDEFU is the worst song? Fuck. I guess that just goes to show what effect the resurgence of pop punk has had, which I honestly hope continues. I'd much rather see some edgy pop punk get popular than another fucking Nicki Minaj song, wouldn't you?
Okay, one thing about me, I'm the baddest alive.
I don't even really give a shit about the song being vulgar in some places. In fact, I don't really give a shit about vulgarity in songs in general, but more the fact that it's more overdone than a steak that's so burnt that parts of it are breaking off, turning into black dust. It's so overdone that the masses are desensitized. Once in a while, Ben Shapiro will look into a song and bitch about it, but at this point, it's nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, not only is this not out of the ordinary, this is literally Anaconda 8 years later. It's about various sexual encounters, the art cover for the Roman version, which I don't know why the fuck Roman is still a thing, but the art cover for the Roman version of this song is basically the same as the cover art for the single for Anaconda. Genius even fucking states that this is a clone of Anaconda. It's Anaconda reimagined, and it's proof that pop music is mass-produced for the masses to mindlessly enjoy. So it's not enough that this is another god-awful Nicki Minaj song, but nothing new is being added here. Absolutely nothing. Her legacy gained jack shit from this. This song adds no prestige to pop, or hip-hop, or even the pop-rap hybrid. There isn't a single fucking thing about this song that hasn't already been done. Not one fucking bit of this is unique. Hell, I wouldn't even be surprised if the composition was an old song of hers or the song she sampled, just with new lyrics. This is not meaningful art. The only reason this song fucking exists is to make Nicki Minaj and her record label more fucking money. I refuse to believe that this song reached number 1 organically. Nothing about this is memorable. I even said at some point before I lobotomized this song that this was just some Nicki Minaj song. And guess what? I was right. This song holds nothing of value. It is worthless, and the fact that this is even being sold boggles my mind. But as I said, all Nicki Minaj and her label want out of this is to enrich themselves. Top 40 music is mass-produced, laced with capitalist propaganda, much of it marginalizes the working class, peddles artists that are way past their prime, is allowed to break YouTube guidelines and remain up on the site for everyone to see, pushes themes of classism and racism. On one hand, you have the promotion of simp behavior, and on the other hand, you have the promotion of misogyny, and some of it just lives off the success of other media. The state of top 40 music in 2022. Pathetic. Lads, I already stated something of a New Year's resolution at the beginning of this video. Even if some of it is just wishful thinking, I'd like to get a job, go to trade school, and begin accepting financial contributions through Patreon once I hit 1,000 subscribers, but I think we can add stop taking top 40 seriously as an indicator of what's popular, and enter the mindset that most music that is considered to be top 40 is almost entirely corporately facilitated to the resolution. Pop and hip-hop hegemony within the music industry is something that I've questioned since I was 17, and I think I can now safely say that it is an illusion. 2022 was such a slow year that Bloomberg even reported that despite the fact that less hits were being released, pop and hip-hop hegemony did not fold. I would be surprised if anyone could tell me who Metro Boomin or Steve Lacy even are. Top 40 means absolutely nothing to me. I just wish YouTube would stop fucking enabling it. But I think in 2023, we can focus just on Adele, Justin Bieber, and any other musician that thinks it's okay to weaponize their copyright to censor criticism. I'll still take on songs from other artists to stick it to YouTube when we get a recommendation for a Selena Gomez song, or a lo-fi stream, or even just to get an idea of what the state of top 40 is for the year. Because I won't lie, I like doing these, and I'll continue to do these lists for your amusement and my own, even though I've completely and utterly undermined and debunked top 40 as the niche currently exists. I will also continue to cultivate metal music as a faithful fan of the music. If you're a fan of symphony, jazz, plunderphonics, synth pop, or perhaps you're a supporter of a movement within hip-hop that hopes to present an alternative to, or even counter bling rap, I not only encourage you, but I implore you to cultivate the music that you like. We can and we must show that top 40 is corporately empowered. Not paying it attention is a good start, but let's make it known that our culture is hidden beneath the interests of the elite. And with that, I think we can conclude this video and sign off on the list of the 10 worst songs of 2022. If you made it to the end, give yourselves a pat on the back. I still have the 10 best metal songs coming in January, and I also have another worst of list coming in the spring. So if you'd like to join me for those, go on ahead and click subscribe and click the bell to get notified when those come out. If you like the video, please be sure to click thumbs up, share the video far and wide, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Was I a bit preachy? Did I open your eyes as to how arbitrary top 40 charts are? Did I do a good job at conveying why I thought these songs were among the worst of the year? Let me know. With that, I thank you for watching, and I will be back soon for another video. Bye guys.